The top 10 best NBA players that never became All-Stars. Paraphrasing William Shakespeare, to be an All-Star or not to be.
To be or not to be. Not to be.
That is the question. But is there any actual watertight criteria defining who should become an All-Star? Is it a popularity contest or some kind of a lifetime achievement award? Is it a payoff for having great numbers in a single season, or at least the first half of it? Or is it mostly about helping your team win? Well, the answer is probably all of those, but there are many players in NBA history that got so close to becoming All-Stars, posting exquisite individual single-season numbers or being consistently good for many years, only to be snubbed of an All-Star appearance in the end. In this video, we're going to talk about those who we consider to be the top 10 best NBA players that never earned an All-Star game selection. Before we get to that point though, we want to say kudos to all of our loyal subscribers. You truly are the best, and if you're not one of them, here's your chance to hit that subscribe button. It's free.
For free!
Plus, we're having a huge giveaway soon, and we wouldn't want you to miss out. First off, let's explain our train of thought behind our selections. We decided to take into account a number of variables, such as the players' whole career numbers, their most All-Star worthy single-season campaigns, and whether they were actually helping their teams win. We also felt that we shouldn't include current NBA players that are still in their prime and are expected to have a shot at making an All-Star appearance in the upcoming years anyway. With that being said, we then decided making an old-school type of list would be more appropriate, so we've chosen 4 guards, 4 forwards, and 2 centers, and then rank them from the least All-Star worthy to the biggest all-time All-Star snub. Number 10. Arvydas Sabonis. Arvydas Sabonis' case is mostly a what-if scenario. Whereas the Lithuanian center played in the NBA for 7 seasons, he didn't enter the league until he was 31 and past his prime, already being considered a legend in Europe. Sabonis was a 90s version of Nikola Jokic, a big man way ahead of his time. He had excellent court vision and he wasn't afraid to step outside the line to take and hit a 3. He averaged a double-double in the 1997-98 season, scoring 16 points per game and grabbing 10 rebounds. But he didn't earn an All-Star selection that year, nor the following ones, despite the fact that his Portland Trail Blazers made the playoffs each season he played for them, and a few of his teammates were named All-Stars during those years. He could have become an All-Star no matter what, but the truth is it was mostly due to the fact that he failed to join the league earlier that he missed that opportunity. Hot take. If Arvydas Sabonis had entered the league 5 years earlier, he wouldn't have just become an All-Star multiple times, but he'd be considered nowadays one of the best NBA centers of the modern era. Number 9. Happy Hairston. You've probably never watched Harold Happy Hairston play, and that's totally understandable, but the 6'7" forward that played 11 years in the NBA definitely deserves to be included in this list. Just have a look at his numbers and his achievements. He averaged a career double-double in points and rebounds. He once grabbed 13 defensive rebounds in a quarter, an NBA record, and he was part of the Lakers team that won 33 consecutive regular season games in the 1971-72 season, another record by the way, and went on to win the championship. He could and probably should have made an All-Star appearance as a member of the Cincinnati Royals or the Detroit Pistons early in his career, but while playing for the Lakers during his prime, being surrounded by legends like Jerry West, Elgin Baylor and later Wilt Chamberlain, he was hardly ever his team's 3rd best player. Number 8. Marcus Camby. Marcus Camby is still, up to date, one of the greatest rebounders and shot blockers. He's currently ranked 12th in all-time blocks this league has ever seen. Truth be told, the 6'11" center was never his team's first option on offense. As a matter of fact, he never averaged more than 14.8 points per game, a feat he accomplished during his rookie season. But defensively, Camby was a beast. He was the Defensive Player of the Year in 2007, and he made the NBA All-Defensive teams for 4 consecutive seasons, while also leading the league in blocks 4 times. He was part of the New York Knicks team that became the first and only 8th seed to reach the NBA Finals in 1999, and he played in 79 postseason games throughout his career. He probably enjoyed his best season in 2007-08, averaging 13.3 rebounds per game and a league-high 3.6 blocks per game, but also just 9.1 points per game. So why didn't Camby make any All-Star appearances? Well, he never stayed with the team for too long, except for his tenure with the Nuggets. He was also never a joy to behold offensively, and thus he was never really popular. And in 2008, he had to fight for a spot in the West with Yao Ming and Amari Stoudemire in their prime. and that was an easy choice. Number 7. Lou Williams. Lou Williams is still an active player, but given the fact he's in the twilight of his career, and since he was snubbed of an All-Star selection in the 2017-18 season, coming off the bench for the Clippers and scoring 22.6 points per game, we're pretty adamant he's never going to become an All-Star. It's sad, but it's true. He's actually been the first option off the bench for the majority of his career, while still averaging in double digits in points for 14 consecutive seasons prior to 2020-21. He's also been named the NBA's 6th Man of the Year on 3 occasions. Would he deserve an All-Star selection, at least as a Lifetime Achievement Award as we mentioned before? Definitely. But keeping in mind that he's already 34 and his numbers have declined this year, both in minutes per game and also in scoring, this just isn't going to happen. Number 6. Ron Harper. Most people remember Ron Harper for being the starting point guard of the Bulls during their second three-peat in the 90s. He then followed Phil Jackson to LA and he won another 2 championship rings. That Ron Harper was, at best, a glue guy. Pretty much non-existent offensively, never taking the clutch shot, being there just to pass the ball around and to play really tough defense. He was a winner, but he wasn't all-star material. It's only normal that people tend to forget that the 8th overall pick of the 1986 NBA draft started his career as a shooting guard, and he was actually a prolific scorer before joining the Bulls when he played for the Cleveland Cavaliers and then the Denver Nuggets. He had the highest scoring average ever by a rookie that didn't make the All-Star in the 1986-1987 season. The Cavs failed to enter the playoffs that year and Harper failed to make the All-Star cut. He had another All-Star worthy season in 1988-89, but his teammates Mark Price and Mark Jackson were selected instead, both making their first respective All-Star appearances. His following seasons were plagued by injuries, and even though he enjoyed some success with the Clippers, one of the worst franchises of the NBA at the time, he never became an All-Star. Mostly due to the strong competition at the time, but also, to be transparent, because he was snubbed in 1989. Number 5. Mike Conley. This was a tough choice for us, since when we started working on this video, the All-Star reserves for 2021 hadn't been announced. So by the time you're watching this, Mike Conley is probably either preparing for the moment he was waiting for a long time, or he should be considered an even bigger snub. He's not enjoying his best individual campaign to date in 2020-21, but he's making a huge impact for a great, overachieving Utah Jazz team that currently holds the best record in the whole league. Conley had been ignored on a few occasions in the past, especially during the 2016-17 season when he recorded 20.5 points per game, 6.4 assists and 3.4 rebounds, while the Memphis Grizzlies made the playoffs. Although he's just a year younger than the aforementioned Lou Williams, it could be argued that he's still in his prime and he could have another chance in the near future. But we're cheering for him here and now, and we hope he's getting his chance this season. Number 4. Rod Strickland. Rod Strickland's the only player in this list that was part of an All-NBA team, an honour he received in 1998 without ever making an All-Star selection. He was also first in assists that season, having 10.5 dimes per game. His 1997-98 campaign's considered to be the best of his career, where he averaged 17.8 points per game, and many people thought he should have been an All-Star back then instead of Steve Smith. Rod Strickland was definitely an underrated player during his time, being an excellent facilitator, a good shooter, a devoted defender, an ideal teammate to have, basically. He stayed in the league for 18 years and he played for 9 different teams, so quite the traveller. He reached the playoffs 11 times and his numbers were always significantly increased during the postseason. He played for some championship caliber teams, but he never went past the second round of the playoffs, whilst wasting some of his prime years with an underachieving Washington Wizards team. He's universally considered to be one of the best players to never make an All-Star appearance. Justified. Number 3. Lamar Odom. When thinking about Lamar Odom, the word versatile comes to mind. And Kim Kardashian. And the various legal troubles he's had. And the personal tragedies he's endured. But let's stick to what he achieved on the basketball court, even though everything he went through truly affected his basketball career and his personality as a whole. His teammates nicknamed him the Candyman due to his cheerful disposition and his love for Skittles. Odom was always the most popular person in the locker room and the one that made everyone look better on court. Numbers don't always tell the whole story, and we can't really use them to relay the impact he had on every team he played for. The Candyman was the 4th overall pick in the 1999 NBA draft. He won 2 NBA championships with the Lakers, and he was the 6th Man of the Year in 2011. He was a modern forward. He could initiate the offense, he could shoot the ball, true, not always consistently, but he could also defend multiple positions. He was always there to make his coaches and his teammates happy, and despite the fact he wasn't always starting the games, when the crunch time came, he was there on the court giving everything he had. When he accepted coming off the bench for the Lakers in 2008, his chances to ever become an All-Star were diminished. But he did get 2 rings, and while we can't really think of one particular case in which snubbing him was a crime, it's a fact that players with almost the same style and impact, but a bit more convincing numbers like Shawn Marion made multiple All-Star appearances. Number 2. Richard Jefferson. How is it possible that Richard Jefferson never became an All-Star? He averaged more than 19 points per game 4 times during his career. He could rebound the ball, he could shoot. He was a reliable defender, and he was a starter for some really good teams that made deep playoff runs. He played in the finals thrice, and late in his career he was a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers team that won the championship in 2016, coming off the bench. If making an All-Star team is a matter of combining efficiency, success and individual stats, Jefferson had all of that covered, at least during the first half of his career, as while the years went by, he became more of a role player and his numbers were drastically decreased. The 6'7" forward was probably unlucky as he was an early bloomer for a championship-caliber Nets team led by Jason Kidd and Kenyon Martin, and he then enjoyed some really successful individual campaigns that weren't translated into team success. His peak season was probably 2007 to 08 when he averaged 22.6 points per game, and he started in all 82 regular season games, but unfortunately the Nets were in decline. And that was that. Number 1. Cedric Maxwell. Cedric Maxwell is the only NBA Finals MVP that was never part of any All-Star teams, and that alone is enough proof that he deserves to be in the top of this list. Admittedly, an All-Star selection in fact just rewards the players' performances and their team's success midway through the season, but it still feels quite bizarre and wrong. Even more bizarre than his nickname back then, Cornbread. Maxwell was the Finals MVP for the Celtics in 1981, and that Boston team also featured Tiny Archibald, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and of course Larry Bird, that went on to become Hall of Famers, while the best player of that series never even became an All-Star. Maxwell enjoyed his best individual season during his sophomore year in the league in 1978-79, averaging 19 points per game and grabbing 9.9 rebounds whilst having a league-high .584 effective field goal percentage. But unfortunately, the Celtics were playing bad that season, and that probably cost him an All-Star selection. He held the NBA record for best career true shooting percentage by the time he retired in 1988, and he's currently second all-time behind DeAndre Jordan. He won another ring in 1984, and is considered nowadays one of the most underrated NBA players. So, what do you think of this list? Which other players do you think should be considered amongst the biggest All-Star snubs of all time? Are you excited for this year's All-Star game in Atlanta? Do you think that the All-Star game shouldn't even be held due to the current coronavirus pandemic situation? Tell us what you think in the comment section below, along with your proposals regarding our future videos. And if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And of course, keep loving this game.